Well, a hiking group was rescued from the New Mexico mountains, a wolf pup performs for the camera, and a heat wave sends nomads scrambling. We'll talk about all these stories coming up. Well, I'm your host, Robert Witham. Nomad News is highlights from the news that may be of interest to nomads, travelers, and those who love the great outdoors. So diving right into the stories for this episode, a group of 24 hikers is safe after being rescued from a calamitous hike in the Oregon mountains of New Mexico. The group set out before dawn on a Sunday morning in May in an attempt to hike in the Needle, a notoriously difficult ascent in the Oregon mountains. The hiking group, whose members ranged in age from their teens to adults in their 60s, became fragmented as some fell behind during the hike. As the group splintered and became smaller, some members of the smaller groups became disoriented and ended up on the wrong trail. As the sun set, the hikers were stranded and unable to find their way off the mountain. Someone from the group managed to call 911, and a search and rescue operation was launched. All of the hikers were fortunately escorted off the mountain safely, with only one suffering from dehydration and minor scrapes and bruises. Deborah and I have camped and hiked in the Oregon mountains in the past. A beautiful area, but I'm not surprised that a group ran into trouble in these mountains. They are steep and rugged, and the trails are rocky. We did a hike that was supposed to be a moderate hike when we were there, and it was a workout. It actually was brutal, really is what it was. It was far longer than we expected. It was going to be based on the research we did and the signage, and the ascent and descent were really rough. So I'm not surprised to hear somebody ran into trouble in those mountains. I am surprised they managed to find enough cell coverage to make a 911 call, though. That is a challenge in those mountains. And as I always caution whenever I do stories about people getting lost like this, always make sure you bring enough food and water and basic first aid supplies, and maybe even emergency shelter supplies when you're even on a day hike, because you never know when something's going to go wrong. And those kind of supplies can be, in an extreme case, the difference between life and death, and in a less extreme case, they still can be the difference between a really miserable experience and one that's not quite so bad. Moving from New Mexico to Minnesota, the Voyageurs Wolf Project captured video footage of a 4-week-old wolf pup howling on camera. This footage was posted to the group's Instagram account, which is worth following if you don't already. The Voyageurs Wolf Project studies wolves in and around Voyageurs National Park in Minnesota. And the Voyageurs Wolf Project is also conducting a fundraiser right now to buy more trail cameras to better study the Voyageurs wolf population and bring us all videos like this. So link to that's in the description as well if you want to check that out. And a heat wave is bringing unseasonably hot temperatures and setting records across much of the western U.S. Here in northeast Wyoming, where I am currently located, we've been experiencing temps in the 90s, sometimes close to 100, with no relief in sight, and that is uncommonly hot for this area in early June. It's usually much later in the summer before we see this kind of weather, and I don't think in the 5 or so years I've been around here I've ever seen it this hot for this long, and I've never seen it this hot this early. And meanwhile, the heat has continued to spread across much of the U.S., with temperatures in many areas across the country 10 degrees or more above normal for this time of year. This is leaving many nomads scrambling for higher elevation or to find somewhere to plug in to run air conditioning, as places that are normally comfortable at this time of year are experiencing sweltering temperatures. Really, the only relief is to go very high in elevation, and if you're in the area like where I'm in, high elevation means no cell signal, which means I can't work. So I either have to find somewhere to plug in and run air conditioning, or I have to hang out in public buildings like a library all day, or go hang out at somebody's house if that's an option, or take some time off of work so I can go hang in the mountains where I'm not able to work. I've also heard from a lot of other people who are challenged by this unexpected and severe heat wave. Meanwhile, much of the western U.S. is already in drought, and numerous wildfires have already been reported this year. Hopefully this is a temporary blip and not indicative of an extreme summer with extreme drought worsening and wildfires as bad or worse than last year. Hopefully it cools down and we get some moisture and things settle down a bit. That's it for this episode of Nomad News. Hope you enjoyed this update. Thanks for joining me for this video, everyone, and we will see you in the next one.